Hi, welcome to ConflictStory, where we bring you the best and most fascinating stories just for you. Let's dive right into one of those stories. It begins like this.
They came in black polos and cheap hero posture, right as the sun burned a white line across my sister's porch. One shoved a fake badge into the peephole like it could hypnotize truth. The other wedged his boot in the door. Inspection? Immediate compliance? He barked, voice like gravel in a blender. Lena tried to push the door shut with her good shoulder. He yanked her wrist. I heard the snap, like a dry twig, and the sound has its own color. She went down hard on the steps, breath gone, a cry torn in half. I was 3 strides away with a rake in my hand and dirt on my knees. The one with the folder stepped into me, planted the cardboard edge in my chest. "Back off," he said, and smiled for the neighbors' phones. The street hummed, sandals on concrete, shutters on cameras, whispers like a swarm. A blonde in oversized sunglasses, Karen, queen of our Homeowner Association, sipped from a white cup and watched. "Document everything," she told them. "Non-compliance is a risk factor. You ever feel your world tilt and you're the only one standing straight?" I looked at Lena's hand bent wrong, her face gray, and every old wire inside me lit up. Funny thing is, I've trained my whole life not to break. But that sound, bone giving up, cuts deeper than pride. The big one leaned close, as if he could breathe authority into my face. "We warned you about that illegal addition," he said. I could smell mint gum and a lie. "Don't make this worse." Here's what happened next. I picked Lena up with both arms. The porch wood was hot through my jeans. "Call an ambulance," I said. The man with the folder lifted his phone toward me, like I was the show. I kept my voice level, low. "You lay another hand on my family, you'll regret it." Not a threat, a promise whispered to my own heart, so it wouldn't run ahead of me. Karen lowered her sunglasses. "We'll be noting the aggression," she said. "It reflects badly on your history." She smiled like she knew secrets, and maybe she did. Let me back up. Name's Mike. 56. I used to carry a shield and a battering ram, not a rake. SWAT before my knee. And a night I still wake up inside. A door, a scream, a shot that came too quick. I got out before the job took what was left. Now I mow the lawn on Saturdays and fix leaky sinks and bring my sister coffee because divorce can make a home feel like a bus station. I don't like crowds. I don't like noise. And I do not like men who wear power like a Halloween costume. In the ER, fluorescent light washed us clean and cold. Lena stared at the ceiling tiles like they had answers. "It's a clean break," the nurse said, wrapping her arm. 6 weeks. I held the paper cup while my hands shook. My nephew, Nick, 17 and angry at the planet, paced at the foot of the bed. "Where was your training, Uncle Mike?" he said. "Why didn't you stop them?" I get it. You've probably asked someone that question too. It lands like a brick on the softest part of you. Back at the house, the block smelled like cut grass and cheap perfume. Tammy from 2 doors down, always with a mic, always with a take, sidled up. "Those guys hit Elm Street yesterday," she whispered. "Karen's got them everywhere. It's like a show." She wanted me to say something hot for her podcast. Instead, I asked if she saw their badges up close. "Crooked laminates," she said. "Font looked like a school project." Her laugh died when she saw my face. Here's what I discovered next. The officers don't exist in any public listing for the Homeowner Association. No names, no assignments. But somehow, their reports were posted to a password-protected corner of the board's forum the same day. How do I know? Because neighbors love screenshots, and one accidental email had a link that wasn't meant for me. Someone inside was feeding them addresses in a script. Pressure, then flip. It wasn't about a room addition. It was about making people bend. I took a walk at dusk. The cicadas did their metallic hymn. At the end of our street, Marty was smoking by his overflowing trash bin, shirt tucked in like it was scared to be out. Marty, 60, accountant face, nervous teeth. "You didn't hear this from me," he said, and nudged a black trash bag with his shoe. Inside, printed spreadsheets, highlighted rows, little tags that read, "Pressure flip, non-compliant, target." Addresses I knew, names, my sister's among them. Have you ever seen your home written down like a chess piece? I rang Karen's bell the next afternoon. Her porch looked like a catalog: white wicker, lemons in a clear bowl, a dog that didn't bark. She came out slow, as if the scene needed her. "Mike," she said, soft like lullabies have teeth. "We want the best for the community, but standards matter." I kept my hands in my pockets to hide the tremor. "The men who hurt my sister," I said, "what are their names?" She shrugged. "Field compliance, contractors. If you'd submitted your plans, they wouldn't have to escalate." Then she tapped her tablet. "You left the force, didn't you? Those impulse issues can be hard in neighborhoods." She didn't have to raise her voice. The knife slid in anyway. That night, the house had a cold that didn't belong to the air. I set Lena up on the couch with pillows and a bowl of ice. The sound of the freezer making more cubes, small percussion in the quiet. She winced when I adjusted the sling. "Don't do something stupid," she said. "I can't lose you to this." I wanted to tell her that I'd already lost enough. Instead, I brewed tea and watched the steam unravel like a thought I couldn't catch. I've been where some of you are, sitting with a weight you can't lift, pretending your hands don't shake. Here's what happened next. I told myself I'd make them show their true faces without laying a finger on anyone. I set bait. Nothing illegal, nothing flashy. Just boxes left where they could see them. Smart locks, stickers that said renovation camera inside, a cardboard file labeled permits and payments where the sunlight would kiss it through the window. And Tammy? I let her overhear what I needed her to hear, that Lena would be at my place the next night and the house would be empty. "Exclusive tip," I said. She lit up like a switch. "You think that was cruel? Maybe. But sometimes fire draws moths that need catching." Marty found me by the bins again, chain-smoking apology. "I can't sleep," he said, eyes wet in the corners. He pressed a small brass key into my palm. "Storage unit. They keep stuff there. Papers, gadgets." His hand lingered a heartbeat, like he needed permission to be brave. Have you ever watched a man turn around, 1 inch at a time? They came back just before dark, right on cue. Same uniforms, same swagger. I sat on the porch steps, palms open, a speaker behind me playing a police scanner loop at a whisper. The big one smirked. "You ready to cooperate?" he asked. Up close, his badge was a sticker in a cheap frame. The other lifted his phone, recording. "Say you consent," he said, grin curdled with confidence. I kept my breathing slow. "You've been busy," I told them. "That forum of yours, tight little club." The big one leaned in until I could see the red veins swimming in his eyes. "You always late to the party, vet?" he whispered. "You were late today." My jaw locked. For a second, the world turned into that old hallway. Dust in a sunbeam, door about to go, my heart already through it. My knees screamed just remembering the breach. The rake handle under my fingers felt like a baton. I saw my fist in my head before I felt it in my hand. Then I saw Lena sleeping under ice packs. I stopped. You ever pull yourself back from a cliff and feel the gravel slide under your heels? They walked away laughing, narrating to their cameras. "Aggressive male," one said, "threatening behavior." I stood there like a statue that had forgotten what it was supposed to be. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A clip, edited to make me look like a storm with legs, flew through the neighborhood app. Commenters were generous with fear. "He's unstable. Call someone." A patrol car rolled by, slow like a thought. The officer asked calm questions, wrote calmer notes, left a quiet warning in the air. Lying there after, lights off, I felt the old failure take a chair at my table. I'll tell you straight, that was my lowest point. Have you ever felt your name go sour in your own mouth? Here's the twist most folks didn't see coming. When I said my SWAT, I didn't mean a call to a unit. My boys aren't on payroll anymore. We're just men with mileage and a code. Roger still carries a trauma kit in his trunk, because some habits keep the world spinning. Sonny talks strangers off ledges with a voice like church bells. Phil can make a microphone invisible in a flower pot and mix sound like a choir director. I sent 3 texts. They sent back 1 word each. Where, when, coffee. We met in my kitchen at dawn, the room smelling like burnt toast and stubbornness. I laid it out clean. "No violence," I said. "No trespass. We make them hang themselves with their own rope." Phil unpacked a shoebox of gear. Nothing fancy, nothing illegal. A directional mic that looks like a flashlight. A clip-on recorder the size of a coin. A cheap floodlight you could buy at a hardware store. Roger checked batteries and patted my shoulder, like we were suiting up for a different kind of entry. Sonny practiced lines that sounded like surrender, but were really trapdoors. "You sure?" he asked me, quiet. "You know what happens if we push too hard?" I nodded. "I know what happens if we don't." We put the floodlight on the porch, not hidden, just there, a warm eye waiting for dusk. Phil tucked the coin recorder into the dirt of a potted fern, because irony plays nice with truth. Sonny wrote a few questions on an index card in big letters so I could glance down and look dumb if I needed to. Then I sent a message to Karen through Tammy. "We're ready to resolve, paperwork and cash on hand. Tonight at 7. No police." You could feel the whole neighborhood lean forward. Here's what you should be asking. Why would they show? Because this wasn't about rules. It was about a machine that pays the people who pull the levers. Cash makes courage out of cowards. At 7 sharp, a dark SUV glided to the curb, engine purring like it never had to work. The 2 officers climbed out first. Then a tall man in a gray suit, jaw tight, eyes scanning like he'd paid to own the horizon. Karen stayed in the driver's seat of a second car, silhouette behind tinted glass. She thought she was invisible. We laid the scene like a cheap magic trick. A folding table, a manila folder, a portable money counter humming softly. Green bills rubber-banded in stacks for show. I kept my hands visible. "We just want peace," Sonny said, voice humble, eyes steady. "Tell us where to sign so you can stop coming by." The gray-suited man exhaled impatience. "You agreed a voluntary transfer of the easement and the accessory structure," he said, as if we'd memorized his script. I tilted my head, friendly. "So, this isn't an official inspection, right? More of a neighborly arrangement?" The big enforcer nodded without thinking. "Badges are for optics," he said, scratching his chest. "You know how it is." The floodlight washed their faces. The fern listened. The man in the suit asked for a receipt. Phil had prepared something pretty. Legalese sprinkled with little landmines, phrases that meant what we needed them to mean. I slid it across. He signed fast, like men do when they think they are owed the world. Karen stepped closer, cup in hand, the smell of vanilla riding the air. "No scenes," she said to her men, not seeing the scene had already chosen her. "Have you ever watched someone step right into their own hole? I should stop here and ask you, what would you do with their signatures and their mouths full of truth? Would you blast it online? Would you march to a precinct? That's not my way. Noise is their weapon. Mine is silence with teeth." As the suit straightened his tie, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expression cracking for a second. An email notification. A bank name squeezed into the small screen. I filed the look away. "We done?" he said. "We're done," I answered, and let the floodlight click off. The night felt bigger without it. The men walked to their cars, the grass whispering. The fern kept a secret under its leaves. I closed the door and leaned my head against the cool wood. My legs shook like ladder rungs in a storm. Roger handed me water. "You did good," he said. I didn't feel good. I felt like a man who'd put a leash on a wolf and now had to decide where to tie it. Out on the street, Tammy's porch light blinked twice, her way of saying, "They took the bait." I looked at Lena, asleep on the couch, her cast propped on pillows, the TV playing a late-night show with the sound off. "Hold on," I whispered to nobody, or maybe to the part of me that was still in that old hallway. "Just hold on. Here's what happens next, and you're going to want to hear it. But before we go there, answer me this. Have you ever stood at the edge of a choice and felt both roads cut your feet? Drop a comment if you've had to outthink a bully rather than outfight him. Morning smelled like wet asphalt and burnt coffee. I was up before the sun, knee aching like an old radio picking up storms. Funny thing is, after a night like that, the world looks too normal, birds still argue, sprinklers still tick. But I knew we'd set something in motion. You ever wake up and feel a clock ticking that no one else hears? Here's what happened next. I didn't run to any office. I didn't post a frame. I called Phil, then a man who once saved my back with a tourniquet and later saved my credit with a phone call. He manages risk for people who wear suits like armor. We met behind a strip mall where the dumpsters smell like sugar and rot from the bakery. I handed him a drive. No drama, I said. Just listen. He watched the clip on his tablet. The badges called for optics, the not an inspection, the signature that read like a confession. He didn't smile. He didn't scold. He just said, I need 10 minutes. 10 minutes stretched like a tightrope. He made 2 calls under the hum of a broken neon sign. No big words, just names and numbers and that quiet tone people use when something expensive is about to go wrong. Understood, he said twice, and then looked at me the way you look at a weather map before a long drive. If what we heard stands, he said, the guarantees on his projects go on hold. The bank won't like that. He'll have to clean house or watch cash dry up. Have you ever seen a man pluck a brick from the bottom of a wall with just a fingertip? Here's what she didn't know. Karen, with her lemons and her lawn, and her cup that always matched her shoes. Her power didn't live in bylaws or meetings. It lived in an invisible line of credit and the promise that men like our gray suit would be made whole no matter what. You take away the promise, and confidence leaks out like air from a tire you can't find the hole in. By lunchtime, the suit parked 2 blocks away and walked to my curb like the pavement might explode. No entourage, no swagger. He carried his phone like a live wire. We have a problem, he said, low, so only my porch could hear. I nodded as if I'd just learned to nod. We all do, I answered. He didn't threaten. He negotiated with the ghost of his margin. Return the paper, he said. Delete your copies. We'll make this right. I let the silence sit between us like a judge with a slow pen. Make it right, I said, by stopping, today. He stared at the hibiscus next to my steps like it might offer legal advice. Then he did something I didn't expect. He called Karen on speaker. It's over, he told her. Freeze everything. You've exposed us. Karen didn't freeze. She erupted, words sharp enough to cut rope. You're weak, she snapped. I built this. They'll fold. He turned the volume up and met my eyes. Hear that? He said to her. He heard it. So did others. She hung up. That click was a sound I won't forget. It was a window slamming in a burning room. Let me back up a second and show you the cost. While rich men argued with each other, our street chewed on me like old gum. The night before, that edited clip painted me as a fuse. By afternoon, the comments had names. Watch your kids. He's unstable. A patrol car rolled by again. The officer stayed in his seat and tipped 2 fingers off his brow, like we were playing chess in a park. Even Nick wouldn't look me in the eye at lunch. You didn't hit him, he said, as if that was the whole trial. You just let them walk. I swallowed something sharp and called it food. Have you ever carried the right decision like it was the wrong one because no one else could see the map? In the quiet after, Marty came to my fence. No cigarette. He held a folded receipt like it was a wet bird. Storage unit, he whispered. If you need more. I shook my head. No more paper, I said. Not our job. He nodded and wiped his lip. I told them I'm out, he said. They looked through me like glass. His shoulders rose and fell, as if breathing had suddenly become manual. You'll be fine, I lied, because sometimes that's the only way a man takes his next step. Here's what happened next. Late afternoon turned the street gold. The 2 officers came back alone, eyes jittering in their skulls like trapped flies. Their swagger had fallen off in the wash. We need the copies, the big one said, voice smaller than his shirt. We'll undo everything. We didn't know. I looked at their hands, not their faces. No rings, tattoos that tried too hard. I put a flash drive on the table without touching it. No more showing up, I said. No more doors. You come back and you crawl in for your neighbors to watch. He blinked. You can't talk to us like... The other grabbed his sleeve. Shut up, he hissed, because for once he could see the edge of the map, too. From the car across the street, Karen's silhouette shifted. She'd come to keep them brave, but you could feel her phone vibrating with the slow panic of paused money. Funny thing about fear, when it moves from you to them, it doesn't make a sound. Have you ever smelled rain before anyone else admits it's coming? I didn't need to raise my voice. I raised their future instead. I hit play on a small speaker and let their boss's words, "It's over, you've exposed us," float out like bad perfume. The big man's jaw unclenched, his eyes dropped to the grass. Then, without me saying a word, He did something I hadn't planned. He set his fake badge down on the pavement. The other man did the same. Their faces went blank, the way faces do when there's no script left. "We're done," he said. "We were told we were covered." They stepped back. "On your stomachs," I said, not because I needed it, but because sometimes you have to plant a picture in the dirt. They hesitated, then lay down in the warm dust of the street, hands out, eyes on gravel. No sirens, no cuffs. Just the sound of tires somewhere far away, and a wind chime arguing with itself. Across the way, Karen got out, mouth ready, heels biting the curb. She took 2 steps and saw her men face down, not from force but from the math of losing cover. Something flickered behind her eyes, a film melting in a hot projector. "This is a misunderstanding," she tried. I nodded toward the badges on the asphalt. "Looks pretty clear to me." I didn't gloat. I didn't pose. I just let the image sink into the neighborhood like oil into sand. If you're listening, ask yourself, have you ever needed a moment to speak for you because words just make smoke? Here's what she didn't expect. I didn't call the police. I didn't wave a trophy. I walked to the second car, hers, and set a small box on the hood. Inside were the little idols her power worshipped: spare badge frames, a pen camera, a folder of voluntary compliance templates with blanks where conscience should be. "You'll want these back," I said, "but you won't use them again here." She laughed once, a sound with no home to go to. "You think you've won?" she asked. I shook my head. "I think you've run out of places to hide." She looked past me at the 2 men in the street, then at the suit's empty spot at the curb, then at my sister's drawn curtains. Something in her posture slumped and never stood back up. By sundown, the gray SUV was gone from our block and from the maps of the people who count money in their sleep. The officers drove away slow, eyes on the mirror like the past might be back there waving. Karen's porch went dark and stayed that way. No announcement, no meeting, just a quiet that felt earned. Now the bill. Victory has a cashier with a long memory. On the neighborhood app, the edited clip didn't vanish. It sat there like gum under a church pew. The folks who wanted to be afraid kept the story they chose. No parade formed for me. Fine. I don't walk well in front of crowds anyway. That night, I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, listening to the ice maker cough and the house settle. My hands found the old grooves in the table, where cups had worn circles into wood. I thought about that hallway from years ago, about the shot, about the way failure builds a chair in your head and never pays rent. Then I thought about Lena, asleep on the couch, her cast propped up, her breath finely even. I felt my heart drop into my stomach and settle there like a warm stone. I know you've been there too. Nick came in quiet, sock feet whispering. He leaned on the doorframe, face shadowed. "You didn't hit them," he said, almost to himself. "You made them hit their own switch." I didn't say a thing. He pulled a chair and sat. "Teach me that," he whispered. "The part where you don't swing." I looked at his hands, big already, quick to clench. "It's not a trick," I said. "It's a choice you make 100 times in a minute." He nodded, like that was a language he could learn. Have you ever heard a kid change keys right in front of you? Here's the last piece. The next morning, a tow truck puttered to our address, driver looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. He lowered my father's old pickup onto the street, handed me a clipboard with no eye contact, no apology. Just a vehicle, back where it belonged. Later, I saw Marty loading boxes into the trunk of a tired sedan. He didn't wave. I didn't either. Some goodbyes don't use arms. A week passed. No knock, no clipboard, no inspection. The lemons on Karen's porch gathered dust. A small sign went up in her window. Closed for renovation. Maybe she'll open somewhere else with new paint on the same old shelves. Maybe not. Not my road to walk. People will ask me if I won. Depends on your scoreboard. I didn't get a headline. I didn't get my name rinsed clean on a screen. But my sister's cast came off. She held a coffee mug with both hands and smiled like caffeine was a sacrament. My knee still aches when it rains. The street sounds like a street again. Sometimes that's the shape of justice. Quiet, with no one clapping. Just the weight on your chest getting lighter by ounces until you can finally sleep. Let me leave you with this. Strength isn't the door you kick. It's the door you don't, the breath you hold, the plan you make when your blood wants something simpler. We pulled a thread you couldn't see from the sidewalk and watched a machine wheeze to a stop. Not with a bang, with a stall. And the cost? I don't wave at as many porches now. I keep my circle tight as a fist. But when I stand on the curb at dusk and hear sprinklers tick and kids argue about nothing, I know we did the right kind of damage. What would you have done? Would you have wanted noise, a crowd, a clean story everyone could share? Or would you have settled for this? An end with no parade in a home that's safe again? Drop a comment, tell me where you draw your line. And if you ever find yourself staring down a bully wearing a costume, remember, sometimes the hardest punch is the one you never throw.